Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today's video is probably going to be a long one, despite how quickly I will try to get through this video. There's just so much to show you and talk about that I know it's going to end up being long. So you may want to grab yourself a drink, get cozy, get comfortable, or save this video for a time where you can sit still for a little bit, because I do think it's going to be on the longer side. This video is going to be a show and tell of my latest journal collection, which is my Christmas collection for 2025. So in this collection, I have 12 soft cover style books. I've made 3 different sizes and I've made 4 books in each size. So there's 12 total. However, one of these books is spoken for, which is this one, which I'll point out again later on. So there will be 11 that will hit the shop. If you would like to try to catch the restock, I will put the details in the description box that will outline the date and the time that they will become available in my Etsy shop. I'll also have a link to my shop. And make sure you do convert the time to whatever your time zone is, because I'm in Australia, so I'm on a different time zone to many of you. Usually at the time that I'm posting a flip through video, a show and tell video of my journal collections, they will hit the shop within a matter of hours or a matter of days. It's usually within one day. I literally have a stack here that's just like, I don't even know where to start because there's so much to show you, but I will just say that each book also comes with its own little pouch. So usually I will send my handmade journals in a drawstring bag, which I sew, and it's usually just a very basic little drawstring bag to keep your journal safe, and it's not usually lined or anything like that. It's just very basic. But this time I have made the bags a little bit more pretty, a little bit more detailed, and a little bit more usable. So each bag matches and complements with the journal that it's going to come with, and each bag is lined, so the inside has a fabric as well, which makes the bag feel a little bit more sturdy. And you can use this to hold your journal, to store your journal, but you could also use it to hold and store your Christmas ephemera or anything Christmas related, or whatever you want really. And each bag for each size is a little bit different, so I'll show you as I go through each book what the differences are. Some of them have ruffles, some of them have little bows, some of them have little pockets or little pen pockets like this one, so you can actually slip your ephemera inside as you're journaling in your Christmas journal. So I think I'll just clear the table and move everything away, and we'll just go one by one through the collection. So I think we'll start with the minis in the collection. And so again, there are 4 of each size, and these are the 4 in the mini size. So the mini size is a 6x4 size, but they do have a really nice wide spine that can grow really well. So these being soft cover journals means that you can really add a lot to them and they can just grow and grow and grow. You can fill up every page and it won't be a problem. So they are the mini size, but they're also quite a generous size. You can still fit a 6x4 photo on these pages, and you can fit a lot in these journals. I really went kind of crazy with all of the journals in this collection. I spent a lot of time adding lots of pretty little details, little ruffles and trims, and I added the closure in the same way on all of the books. So the closure for each book is a tie closure, and the tie actually comes out from spine area like this on each book. So when you're journaling in your journal, it will lay nice and flat, the closure will be out of the way, and you can just tie it up to keep everything secure when you're not using it. So I really like the way that that turned out, and that's a feature on every book. Every book just has its own choice of like a closure, trim or elastic or tie that complements best with that particular book. So for these books, I wanted them to feel really extra and really festive, and to do that I wanted to add these like fabric or trim ruffles off the side of the book that extend past the actual dimensions of the book, and that also gives you a bit of extra room. So if you want to stick extra paper or have bits of ephemera poking out of the pages, you could definitely do that and they'll be somewhat protected by those ruffles. All of these books also have some charms. So I did my classic beaded charms, but they're a little bit different because they are removables. So instead of putting an eyelet through these journal covers, I added a little loop of fabric, and then I've added one of these little attaches which are removable, so you can actually take off the charms. So if you purchase one of these journals, your charms will likely come unattached, because for some of the little pouches and bags that I've made, they're a bit of a tight fit with the charms on, and also your charms will come less tangled because I'm going to attach them to a little piece of board so they don't get tangled on their way to you. But you can take them off. If you don't like charms, you can completely remove them from the book and take them on and off. I think that these little attaches were a Tim Holtz product. I've had them for a few years, but they just easily clip on and off. I can't remember what they're called, but this is what the charms look like for this particular book. Every book has a little golden key, and then I've got these little these like little polymer charms on here. I actually bought them and didn't realize they didn't have a hole, and so my husband had to drill holes in every little one. So that's like all of these little polymer clay charms. Every book has a nice little mixture of beads and charms and buttons and things that just add such a nice festive touch. And again, if you don't like that, if that's too extra for you, you can totally take it off. I will show you the lining, and then I'll show you the bag, and then I think what I'll do is I'll show the covers of each book and the lining and the bag of each book so that you can get a good idea of them. And then at the end of the video, we'll just do a quick peek through the pages, because yes, the pages are important, but they're all very similar in each book. And I feel like you're not going to remember what's in each book because they're quite similar. So I think I'll just give you a glimpse at the end. That way, if you just want to see the covers and you already know you like the mixture of pages, then you can decide your favorite based off the cover and the bag, if that makes sense. So this particular little 6x4 has this lovely plaid lining, and the cover is lovely and plush and soft and flexible, which is so nice. So this is what it looks like, and again, I will give you a glimpse of the pages better at the end, but I'll just give you like a peek. This is the bag that's going to go with this particular journal. So it complements with the greens and the reds and this nice sort of like vintage floral. All the bags are a little bit different. For this particular bag, I've made a little pocket here with felt and then covered it with fabric. So it's actually a little pocket here and a little pocket here, and then of course a big pocket at the top, so you can put your actual journal inside. So you could just use this as a pouch to hold your journaling goodies and keep it alongside your journal throughout November and December and January, and do your journaling like directly from here. So everything kind of can slip in here and you can pull from it and you can journal on the go, or you can just use it as a storage bag or use it for something else. It's completely up to you. And for these pouches, I've never really done a lined pouch before, and it's funny because a few years ago I remember saying on my channel that I don't know how to sew and I'm not a sewer and it's too intimidating, it's too scary, and I never used to incorporate any type of sewing in my junk journals, and now I'm sewing full journals and bags, and it just goes to show that with a little bit of practice and some basic knowledge, you can really do a lot. However, I did totally wing these pouches. I made them up. I just winged it, and I think they turned out pretty good, but the sizes for each pouch are slightly different because I did not measure everything. I just like eyeballed it, and so for some of these your book will fit really snug even with the charms removed, and for others you'll have a lot of spare room. Like you'll be able to fit it in with the charms on and have some room in there. So that's just, I guess that's just the beauty of handmade, right? That's just the charm of imperfection, but they're all a little bit different in size. So this one I'll put to the side. So here is the next one in the 6x4 size. Same measurements, just with variations of choices. So the closure again comes out from the spine, and this book can grow really well. And every book in this collection has 8 signatures. Nice growable journal that can fatten right up, and you can fit a lot of stuff in here. So this one has the ruffles as well, It's like a red ruffle with these little gold Christmas tree details, which is really pretty. And the lining for this book is that floral, which technically isn't a Christmas print. I just thought it worked well for a vintage Christmas sort of vibe. I'll give you a glimpse at the charms. Again, these are removable and you can also add things to them. It's really easy to add things to my charms. You just literally bead things on and tie them off. But this one's really pretty with the gold details and the little bits of trim that I've added, and it just feels lovely and cushy and just so nice to hold. I really love how each of these turned out, and I loved incorporating things that weren't Christmas, like this beautiful floral trim that my friend actually gave to me. So this pretty pastel blue, it just worked so well with this blue striped fabric that I had. And I love that it's not really Christmas, but it adds that nice sort of vintage touch. I'm not going to show you the page details until the end of the video in case you're more interested in seeing the covers, but there's lots of goodies inside. There's lots of variation in pages. And this is the pouch. So this pouch matches really well. We've got the little nutcrackers here. So this is a pocket. This is a felt pocket, so it's a bit sturdy. And then I've done the blue striped ruffles at the top and then a pretty red floral lining. So this one, I feel like this one turned out a little bit taller than the last one. Again, I didn't measure these out. Maybe I should have, but I didn't. So they're slightly different in size. But just a cute little pouch, and I've added a bit of velvet blue trim along the top as well. So moving along, the next one, this one's quite traditional Christmas, I would say, with the red and the green. We've got this nice pastel sort of minty kind of coloured closure, which this one's I've also left extra long, and it just ties off around the book and it lays nice and flat when you're using the book. This one has these lovely little bells down the middle, and then I've added some trims, and then the spine has this last lovely little piece of cross stitch, Christmas cross stitch. Again, 8 signatures, nice and wide. I've lost a little piece of ephemera from there, just tuck it back in. So very, very growable. This could definitely end up like a big brick of a journal by the time you're finished filling it. And the back looks like this. So I've used that same lacy trim to create ruffles. I've added some other pretty gold trims and the red and the cream here. And then the ruffles for this one match the lining. So I love the way that that kind of extends the cover and blends together. I think that's just a really nice touch. This one also has removable charms, and I've kept this one quite classic with the green and the red. And there's lots of pretty little beads and like little snowflakes and little bows and things like that just I feel like just look nice and nostalgic and festive and fun and playful. So I really like how this one turned out as well. Give you a peek, a preview at the pages, but we'll talk more about those at the end. This one comes in this little pouch. So it's got, again, the reds and the greens. I did this little plaid print for the outside. This is a pocket in there. And then I've done some green ruffles along the top. And the inside is lined with this beautiful bow fabric. And then I also stitched some of that blue velvet ribbon and tied little bows on the side just as a decorative element to this little pouch. And again, this one is kind of a little bit bigger again, so it's a slightly more generous size, just because I don't like to measure things. So there's that one. And then the last one in the 6x4 is the pink one. After making Christmas journals for a number of years, I found that there's always people who love a pink Christmas theme, and I've really grown to love it as well. So in each size journal in this collection, I've made sure to include one pink colored journal. So this is the pink mini. Again, we have the closure peeking out from the spine, which I love the way that it just sits flat and it's attached, but it's not in the way. And I've used this pretty white and pink lace to attach that, which really complements with the vintage linen that I've used on this cover. I also complemented that with some gold ribbon and some non-Christmas lace, which I felt like it just adds that whimsical Christmas touch. For the ruffles, I've used this pink lace, and then I've also added little pops of red fabric, which I think just brings it all together and makes it feel Christmassy. For the spine, I've added more little pops of gold, more of that pretty little piece of floral trim, and then I love the stripes. I love stripes for Christmas, especially blue and white stripes. It just feels like so classic. I feel like when I was creating this collection, I was really trying to embody vintage Christmas kids pajamas or something like that. So with the ruffles and the bits of lace and things like that, I wanted to feel delicate and vintage, but also really festive at the same time. So there's a little piece of that same embroidery that I've used on the front. And then of course we have our removable charms. So again, a little gold key, little mixture of buttons and beads and charms, which you can add to or you can take off. And I just love it. I feel like it just came together so well. For the inside of this one, I've used this pretty blue plaid fabric. So I will show you the pages later, but this is the pouch that it comes in. So this one's a little bit different. I've stitched some lace along the bottom, so there's like a nice decent pocket on the front and back. And then we've got the same bow feature. So this is just for looks. And then the little ruffles across the top. And then the lining looks like this. So a nice little pouch that you can use to store your book, or you can store your other Christmas crafty bits or whatever you want. So that is the 4 minis in the collection, and now we will move up to the medium size. So this is the medium size. Again, there are 4 books, each with their own pouch, and these books measure about 6 by 8 inches, and they also have 8 signatures, and they also have a 3-inch spine which can grow. So these books can bulk up, and they've got that little bit more space, that little bit more page space. So this is the pink book in the medium sized. I love how this turned out. I had this really cute little thrifted fabric with the Christmas tree, and then I just added like a little collage of trims. For the ruffles on this one, I used 2 different fabrics. So I used this little plaid fabric, and then for the back I used the lace trim with a little pop of a deep pink. And then the back has a mixture of laces and trims, and a lot of these are not Christmas, but they come together in a way that I feel feels really festive. So it feels very pretty and festive, even though they're not technically Christmas fabrics. I feel like adding the little pop of shimmery gold really helps to make it feel Christmassy. And if you add like a bit of plaid, which I've done some sort of quilting on, which is probably hard to see in this video. The spine of this book looks like this. Again, I've added a matching tree, and there's a little pop of a nutcracker, and then we've got some trims, some velvet, and things just mixed together that again come together to feel really Christmassy and festive. And then for the tie, I've got this light pink lace. There's some fun little pieces on here to explore. You can add lots of things to these as you go. If you have extra pretty beads or sentimental charms or little things that you've kept that you can manage to tie onto the beads, that's always really special. The inside lining looks like this. Again, not really a Christmas fabric, but I've made it work for Christmas. I feel like I've made it feel Christmassy just by mixing different things together. And I will show you the pages at the end. I'll just give you a glimpse. So that is the pink one, and this is its bag. So the bag has a nice big lace pocket. All of these bags for the medium have the lace pocket, and I've stitched it so that you can slip a pen or a pencil or whatever, paintbrushes in there, and then you've got larger pockets to the side, and then the back is just one large pocket, and that's the same for each bag. So lots of different sized pockets on the bag that you can utilize. I've added the decorative bows along the top. I've added some red ruffles, and then the inside is lined with this checker print. Lots of room in there. So that one goes with the pink book. Next, I've done a really classic Christmas with the reds and the greens. So this one has lots of, classic reds and greens and fun little prints and lots of different textures, ruffles, the tie closure coming out from the spine, and this is what the spine looks like. And then this is what the back looks like. So I'll just undo that tie closure. If you don't like a closure, you could always trim it off as well. And then the ruffles are this sort of sheer gold ribbon, which I think looks really pretty for this particular book, and buttons and things. So very similar, just in a different color scheme. Nice and classic with a pop of blue, which I think is really fun. And then the inside lining is this cute vintage Christmas fabric, which I really love. And again, I will show the pages at the end. This book's pouch is, I feel like, a little bit bigger again. It's a nice generous size, and I've tried to use some of the same prints in it. It's got the same style pocket as the other one, so a large lace pocket, and then the other side has the section, so you can put your paintbrushes or pencils, pens, whatnot in there. And then this one has a cute little sheer bow stitched on and some bits of velvet which feel really nice, and then some little ruffles along the top, and the inside looks like this with the stars. So I think that's really cute. So those two go together. You can see the difference in some of these bags. Like this one's quite snug, and then this one's really oversized. So just something to keep in mind. Like I said a million times, I'm not someone who likes to measure things out, and I'm not a perfectionist really. I just like to go with the flow. So this book is very sort of navy blue themed, but I've also added in those pops of classic red and green. So I love how this one turned out as well. We've got the closures coming from the spine, just like the rest of the books. We've got our removable charms, and I'll just show you the back. So open up the closure. This is what the cover looks like. So a nice mix of fabrics and trims and things that I've stitched together. And then the ruffles on this book is lace with blue, lots of different little beads and buttons and little charms. And then the inside is this cute little blue fabric with the hearts. This is the blue one. And then the bag matches, it fits inside nice and snug, and we've got our big lace pocket, and then we've got our smaller pockets on the other side. I've put a little bit of sparkly gold trim along the top and a nice blue ruffle, and then that same heart fabric to line the inside. So there's that one. And then the last one in the medium is this one, and I would say this one's quite classic as well. It's got an even mix of red, green and blue. It's sort of similar to the last one in the way that I've put the cover together just by stitching a different mixture of fabrics and laces to come up with like a Christmassy feel. Done a little bit of quilting on the back and just added more like Santa trims and bits of checkered fabrics and little pops of sparkly gold. The closure of course comes from the middle, so it stays out of the way. And then the ruffles, I've used some fabric for this one, and I've done the blue stripes, and then I've done some red and white stripes, which I love. And then the inside fabric is this same vintage Christmas fabric, which I love. I'll give you a close-up look at the charms. I love mixing beads and buttons and different types of charms, like little wooden charms and little plastic ones and some metal ones, and just mixing it up I feel like makes it feel really special and gives it that sound, that little sound that they made. But yeah, so this is this one, and then it comes with this bag, the same style bag with the lace pocket. We've got the 3 sections on one side, one big section on the back. For this one I've added the blue velvet trim and some little ties on the side, again just for looks. It's not a drawstring bag, it's just a pouch. And then I have stitched on these cute little ruffles and line the inside with that heart fabric, which is really cute. Again, this is quite a generous sized bag. You've definitely got extra room in there, but I feel like they complement together really well. So that is all of the books in the medium size. Now let's talk about the large size. So the large size journals, and these are big and these are heavy. They measure about 7 inches wide by about 10 inches tall. They also have a 3-inch spine with growing room. They also have 8 signatures inside. They also have a pouch. The biggest difference, apart from being huge, is they have a window feature. So all of these books have a hole in the middle, which is something that you've seen me do plenty of times before. And they have a Christmas image peeking through. So for these large journals, as I mentioned at the start of the video, this particular journal here has been claimed. So this one has been claimed. It will not be available, but the other 3 will be available. I don't usually like to take reserves because I like to have a collection that hits my shop, but I did allow this particular person to reserve this book on this occasion. It is always worth asking if you do see one that you really, really want, because sometimes I am able to accommodate that. Other times I like to just leave it up to chance and pop it in the shop. So these books are really big. They're already pretty heavy. They've got a lot of pages. They're made the same way as the others. They're soft cover, they're squishy, plenty of room to grow. They also have the closure peeking out from the spine, which comes across and ties off, and they're all different to each other. So for this one, I wanted this one to feel kind of wintry. I wanted to include that light blue color scheme with little pops of silver and sparkles and gold, but I loved the way that that complemented and contrasted with this deep maroon and the navy blue. So the back has this vintage linen with the candle, and then the ruffles on the back are this same blue as the tie closure, and the ruffles on the front are this like shimmery silver sheer fabric, which is really pretty. I've added some ruffles on the front, so really nice textures, and the shimmery gold trim here as well. And then along the top, that same floral trim that I was showing you before. That's not really Christmas, but I feel like it really works for Christmas when you team it with the right things. The spine looks like this, and it just brings in all of those same colors and fabrics that I've used on the front and back. And then again, we've got our 8 signatures, which I've used blue binding thread. So all the books will have a different colored binding thread depending on what complemented best. These books also have the removable charms, and I've kind of increased the amount of charms that you'll find on each size. So the biggest books have the most amount of charms, the medium have a little bit less, and the small have a little bit less again, because I feel like it just looks more balanced that way. So this one has a lovely little mix of all the same sorts of things. And then the inside of this one is lined with this pretty textured blue fabric on the front and the back. And then the image is a storybook page, and I picked this one, and it's like a snowy scene, and then when you open the book you can see Santa in the sky. And then I love that the church is here peeking through as well, so I just love that. I will get to the inside pages after I show you all the covers. So the pouches for these journals are a little bit different. Because these books are already quite heavy and they're quite large, I decided to make the pouches open long ways, and then you have the book slip inside the pouch like this. So instead of going through the top, they go through the side, and then you have your ruffles sort of peeking out, which I think is really nice. And then so for all these pouches, I use this really cool fabric that I found at the thrift store, and I've added a vintage linen at the bottom of each pouch and sewn pockets. So you've got 2 pockets here, and then if you flip it over, you've got 2 pockets here. And then we've got our ruffles, which are just for looks and for texture. And then the lining also peeks out the top. So whatever fabric you see here along the top is the fabric that's lining the inside of the pouch. So again, you can use this pouch just to store your journal, or you can use it for whatever you like. You can slip all of your ephemera and journaling supplies in here and use it like a little case to carry around when you're doing your journaling. Then let's talk about the pink one. So there's a pink one in each size, as I said, and this one, I love this one too. I decided to add this little Christmas tree image on the inside, and I've actually been hoarding all of these images that I put in the window on this large set for such a long time because I knew they had to be focal points. And so when you open up this cover, you can see the entire image, which is like a city street at Christmas time. There's kids playing in the snow, there's cars like banked up in the snow, there's people shopping for Christmas. I just love it. There's people ice skating over here. It's so cool. I guess I'm showing you the inside lining for this one first before I show you the outside cover. So I've used this same pink and mint lining, which complements really well. And then for the ruffles, we've got this lovely pink lace. So the cover looks like this. I've collaged different bits of trims and fabrics. Again, for the pink books, I didn't have to use a lot of Christmas. You can just take like one focal Christmas fabric and then team it with non-Christmas and it just comes together. So for this book, I used this Christmas linen, and I obviously had to cut a hole in it and stitch it on to create like this window focal point here. And then just like little different bits of lace and trim, and the spine is really beautiful with this vintage linen as well. And then more bits of like velvet and trim, and then I've used, there's some ruffles at the top, and I've used this pink binding cord. And then the back looks like this. So the back is just as cool. I've used different bits of trim and ruffles and fabrics. That just feels so nice in your hands, and then another little piece of vintage linen along the top. Then again, we've got our removable charms, and this one I did lots of pink, and then I also added pops of green because I felt like it complemented well with the focal image of the tree. So I love the charms on this one as well. And then I'll quickly just show you the pouch. So again, we've got a vintage linen with 4 pockets at the bottom. We've got this sort of golden brown striped fabric. And then for this one, I've done pink silky sort of ruffles. And then this is the lining, which again, non-Christmas fabric, but it works. It's a nice blue floral, like a vintage floral that lines the inside. So there is the pink one. Then I'll show you this one because this one's sold. I'm going to still show it because I love to have a record of my creations that I can refer to on my YouTube channel. So I will show it. It'll also give my customer a glimpse. But I'll show this one first because this one is available. This one I feel like it's got a lot going on. This is like my classic tacky Christmas nostalgic journal. I went crazy with patterns. I went crazy with textures. It's got golds, greens, reds, creams. I love it. So this one it also has a pop of blue, which contrasts so well. And there's something that feels really nostalgic about this particular journal. So this journal has another snowy scene. If I open it up, it's Santa going through the snow. I love these trees. And then the inside lining is like the little kittens and the little teddies in the stockings, which is so cute. That's on the front and the back. And then the ruffles are this fabric on both the front and the back. I love this fabric as well. So I've used that as like a big feature on this cover, and then I've used that gold trim around the window to create a nice frame for the image. We've got the nutcracker trim, more gold trim, and then bits of velvet and ribbon. And then the back looks like this. So again, same color scheme. We've got the nutcrackers, the gold, the red, and that same fabric from the front. And then the spine looks like this. So we've got some like textured yellow fabric, some bits of trim and more of that gold trim, more of the same velvet and ribbons, and a pop of sparkly maroon. So there's a lot going on with this one. If you love like an eclectic vintage Christmas, you might like this one. And it's got the closure coming out and that same sort of maroon color complementing on that tie. Made the charms complement the cover with the classic Christmas colours and a pop of that vibrant blue. And then lots of pretty little charms and beads. And this one has, again, the same type of pouch, same fabric for the main piece, and then we've got this same stocking fabric as the lining. I've done this glittery gold ruffle, and then we've got our vintage linen along the bottom that creates 4 pockets. So pocket here, and flip it over, and it's the same. And then, as I showed you before, when you put your journal inside, you kind of have a peek at the ruffles and the pages, which just feels so festive and snug, and like it's so nice to like hold and carry around. So there's that one. So those are all the journals that will be available, but I'm going to show this one as well because I love how it turned out. So this is the claimed book. This one I wanted to run with a blue and red theme, and so I've used the same blue and white stripe, and then I've added pops of gold and little ruffles and classic Christmas colors, and then the pops of blue with the red, which I love. And then on the back I added this little patchwork star and a little piece of that vintage fabric, and then more of that gold, which just makes it feel really special, glittery and sparkly. For this book I added the ruffles in this red and green fabric with the bows, and I absolutely love that fabric, and I love it for the ruffles. And then of course the closure comes out the spine, and I've used this vintage lace as the closure. The spine of this book looks like this, and I've ran with that red and blue theme with the pops of white. This book also feels like a magical winter Christmas book. And again, the charms are removable. I've added lots of little snowflakes. There's a Santa, a key, a little gingerbread charm, little bows, little candy canes, just really cute. And then the image for this one is this little snow scene, which I thought was so sweet, and it complements really well. And you open it up and it's this music paper. And then it's lined with that heart fabric in the blue. Again, I will show you the pages, but I'll just show you the pouch. So this is the pouch for this book. Blues and reds. One has, again, the 2 pockets on each side with the vintage linen. We've got that same brown and sort of gold colored fabric. I've done a blue ruffle, and then the inside is lined with this Santa fabric. So it's really cute as well. I just love how each one turned out. It's like a nice little bundle of festive joy. So now that I have showed you the covers in detail and the differences with each book, I'm going to show you the inside pages. So the inside pages for these books are pretty similar across each size. The biggest difference is probably in the large journals, because the pages are quite a bit bigger than the other 2 sizes. It means that I had to incorporate a few different types of pages to create pages that were large enough to fill the size cover, if that makes sense. So each size has slightly different range of pages to the next, just because I picked pages that suit that particular size. So if I had smaller pages, I would put them in here, and then the more medium-sized papers, I'd put them in here, and then I had to make up some large papers for the large books. So they're a little bit different, but they have a pretty similar range. And because there's so many books here, I'm not going to show you every page in every journal. I'm just going to give you a glimpse at what I've kind of done. And these journals are very junk journal pages, I feel like. They have a mixture of things. They have some scrapbook papers, but they mostly are made out of like these cardstock pages. And then what I've done is, instead of having full spreads of patterned paper, I've added little pockets or little snippets of that decorative paper. They've got book pages that have Christmas illustrations. This is a Christmas card. Can you see that? They all have one of these Christmas cards. So the larger 2 sizes have these Christmas cards bound in, but the smaller set, they're just loose because they're a little bit too big to to bind in. So we've got different vintage lined paper and note paper and music paper. This is from an old Christmas card list book, this page here. And then I've included some little bits of scrapbook paper. This is from like a little vintage paper doll, which was like a nativity scene. And then I've also included some bits of ephemera as well. So I had some remnants of wrapping paper from previous years, and I would just cut out some little shapes, and then I've glued a few of those to the pages as well. So I always like to have my journals really usable. I like the pages to actually be a blank space for you to fill and to make your own. And as nice as it is to have a page that's really decorated and really gorgeous and filled, I just find that when I'm actually journaling and when I'm using a journal to its full ability, I'm looking for pages that I can make my own and that have room to add things. So that's what I like to do with the journals that I sell, because I want you to actually fill these up with your stuff. But I've embossed some cardstock, so there's like some embossed pages, little note pages, and then the ephemera bits are mostly just tucked into pockets or on paper clips. So you can take them all out, you can move them around, you can glue them down, but they're not stuck anywhere, so you can make it your own and you can get creative with those pieces. So I've recycled lots of Christmas papers, like this is a cover from a notebook, and like Christmas book pages, and then there's like little snippets of patterns. This is a vintage activity book, like a children's dot-to-dot book. So it's just like a mixture of things. There's some vintage ledger, there's some note paper with writing on it, children's book pages, ephemera, and just, yeah, there's a random mixture, which is very junk journaly. And this is a vintage recipe card. And there's just little things, little areas where you can slip things inside of. And I really love that, because I feel like it's very usable and something that you can make all your own. So each page is interesting enough to spark some inspiration and to get you started, to give you that starting point, but it's not going to restrict your journaling. So all of the pages have that, and instead of flicking through all the pages for the rest of them, I'm just going to give you a little glimpse. So I'll start off with all the small sizes, and I'll just kind of flick through and show you the sorts of things that are in here, because it's nice to get a look and to know what you're going to find and the kind of vibe and the kind of pages that it has. I love that all the pages have a different texture to them. They all feel different. They're a different paperweight. I've also included like some vintage magazine pages. So there's some like recipe sort of things and like crafty things, which is really fun. Just nice junk journal mix of pages. So just give you a glimpse. 8 signatures in every book. So pockets and writing paper. This was a really cute little like handmade Christmas card that I found in a Christmas book that I found in the thrift store. Like a little kid has traced it or drawn it, and I thought that was so cute. So I bound that in as a page. And yeah, I've used some of my printables from my shop as well. So some of the printables I purchased from other Etsy shops, which if I remember, I will link them down below. And then these are from my own like Christmas linens that I just printed out on this sort of off-white paper. And you can use those to create pockets, you can glue them down, you can make titles, you can use them as photo frames. There's heaps of different things that you can do with vintage linens. So just a quick flick through. And then the last little one is this one with the red and blue. And again, it's got all the same stuff. So I'm just gonna give you a quick glimpse. So small compact pages, but there's lots of space and there's lots of little tuck spots and pockets, so you can add a lot more stuff to these, and you can really bulk them up and fill out every single page. Just trying to give you a really quick little flick through. So there's that one. Now I'll just show you the medium size as well. So again, the same sorts of pages. If there's any major differences, I will point them out, but it's basically the same thing, just on a larger scale. So book pages, and with book pages you can do so many different things as well. I would use this as just a nice background paper. You could write in this blank space or put a photo and stick ephemera on top of it. I've included some fun printables and more of those little wrapping paper die cuts. Some fold outs and vintage recipe cards. It's just lots of little fun things and some extra little details that I've added to the page without overbearing the page and without making it feel like it's already being used. It's a blank slate for you to fill up. So I'm just going to flick. I'm kind of skipping some pages as I flick through because I don't want to be here all day. This is some wrapping paper. So I had little scraps of Christmas paper and wrapping paper and book pages and things that were quite small, but I've been hanging on to them because they're so beautiful, and instead of not knowing what to do with them and maybe recycling them, I've incorporated them as either little pockets on the pages, or I've just glued them to the page. So if I can find an example, I would just glue like a little scrap of Christmas paper to the page, and it adds that little bit of interest without overbearing the page. So this doesn't, you can layer on top of this and it won't affect how you journal. But it also gives you that little pop of pattern and that little starting point to a page, which I feel like kind of helps you break the page in if it has that. This isn't just a blank slate, it's already got something on it, so it feels very inviting. I'm gonna speed up a little bit now, and I'm just gonna give you a glimpse at the pages. I'm not gonna show you every single one because it will take too long, but there's different sized pages as well. I've used some of my own designs as well, which I will point out to you as they appear. But just lots of really usable pages. Again, a little bit of gluing with wrapping paper and scraps of paper, but nothing that's going to overwhelm you when you actually use the journal. So there is that one. Now we have this little blue one, and again, all the same sort of things. And show you. So it feels very, very junk journally because I've used wrapping paper, I've used pages from books from the thrift store, like music pages and activity books and Christmas story books, and I also found like some lovely letter paper, Christmas cross-stitch books and magazines and stuff like that, and then teamed them with some really lovely scrapbook papers to bring in the Christmas feel. So there's also some ephemera tucked inside or paper clipped to the pages so that nothing is stuck down. So you can definitely make it all your own. And then the last one in the size is this one. And again, I'm just going to give you a little glimpse. This is one of my printable papers with all the presents. More of the Christmas linens from my shop. And then there's like vintage recipe cards and some other printables from other Etsy stores as well. So just flick through pretty quickly, skip some pages. It's another one of my designs there. So there's that one. Now for the larger books, we have the same sort of mix of pages. However, I have had to get a bit more creative with adding pages that are larger. So to do that, I've incorporated some A3 sized paper, like the craft paper and the cream paper. And I've also incorporated some like manila folders. And then I've also included the same sorts of things. So little pockets that are stitched on and little goodies that are tucked inside and things that you can move around and get creative with. These pages are really big and you can also grow them. So if you come to a page that's shorter, you can always add more paper to it if you would like to extend the page. But I find that you already have so much room in this book because there's already full-size pages in here. It takes a lot to fill up a book of this size. This is a vintage recipe which I've just tucked inside, and you can use it as a background paper or keep it as loose ephemera. And yeah, it's all kind of similar to the other sizes. It's just got more space. I love having a different variety of pages, like different textures, but also different sizes. They feel very junk journaling because of the mixture of pages that I've incorporated. It's not mostly scrapbook paper. There's only little bits of scrapbook paper here and there. It's mostly actual junk sort of stuff that I've collected. So ledger paper, Christmas cards, music paper, activity books, letter paper, children's book illustrations, all of that sort of thing. And it just comes together and creates a really nice blank slate. More embossed paper that I embossed with my big shots, and then little bits that are just clipped onto the page so that you can actually move them around. This is another one of those Christmas cards, very shiny, and bits of ephemera, and yeah, all the same sorts of stuff on a larger scale. So that's really the main difference, and I will just give you a quick glimpse at the remaining three. More of the die cuts with the wrapping paper. So if you have wrapping paper left over from Christmas, you can use the tiniest little scraps of it. If it's really beautiful wrapping paper, just cut out different shapes and you can glue them onto the page and create like a little snippet of that, and it adds so much to the page, even a really small little area of that pattern. And I feel like if you keep your wrapping paper from Christmas, it's also very sentimental, so it's nice to incorporate that in your journals and to be able to recycle it so it doesn't go to waste. Beautiful scrapbook paper. I'm trying not to show you every page. Like, this is a little scrap of one of my designs as well. Instead of wasting it, I've just glued it onto the edge of this page spread, and it just, even though it's such a small scrap and such a small area of the spread, it adds so much to the spread. It gives you that little starting point to get you started on that page. That is the pink one. Again, I'm gonna flip through pretty quickly. You can see all the same type of things, and there's lots of lovely goodies that you'll find tucked inside that you can move around and use in your journaling spreads. Just trying to get through a little bit quicker. For this one, I incorporated a whole different mixture of bright colors as well. So like the yellows and the pops of blue and the pops of bright green. I feel like this one was really fun to make feel really eclectic. This is another one of my papers from my Etsy shop. And another linen from my shop. So there's that one, and then I am going to show this one as well. This one is the one that has already been claimed. But again, it's got all the same types of pages as the others in its size. And lots of fun little Christmas goodies to play with. Big pockets, full-size pages, smaller pages, vintage ephemera. I love the way the different sized pages layer up and you can get a glimpse at the other pages in the journal. Just flip through. I love the sound of all the different types of papers as well. So there is that one. So that is my Christmas collection of journals for 2025. If you would like to catch the restock and potentially purchase one of these journals, make sure you check out the description box for all of the information. I'll also put a countdown timer in my Instagram stories, which can help you to work out the time zone difference if you're a little bit confused. If you are wanting to purchase from the USA, I can ship to you and prepay the tariffs, so you don't have to worry about any surprise fees when you actually receive your journal at the other end. They will be prepaid. I will have to raise my prices a little bit to cover the tariffs. I am hoping to have a Christmas kit with stickers, etc. later on. I am working on one, but it's not ready yet, and it's going to be a bit of a rush because I'm a bit behind schedule. But keep an eye out for that in case I do get one done in time. And if you have any questions regarding these journals, you can just leave them in the comments down below. I will link the tutorial that I have shared on my channel on how to create like a fabric soft cover journal using felt as the base, which is what these journals are. And if you have any further questions, just let me know. If you have a favorite journal from this set, I would love to know which one is your favorite and why it's your favorite. And I also just want to thank you so much for sticking around to the end of this video. I know it was a really long video and that kind of couldn't be avoided because of the amount of things I have here to share with you. But I really appreciate you sticking around to the end. And if you enjoyed it, I'd really love it if you could put a thumbs up on this video as well. I hope that wherever you are doing really well. And I'll see you again soon in my next video. Bye.